Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Liz Reddy. Today's top stories. Gardaí and Waterford are appealing for information on a man who's been missing for more than 3 months. The new ruling majority on Waterford City and County Council has been labelled as shambolic by one opponent. Google, in partnership with Enterprise Ireland, have hosted the first Grow with Google event outside of Dublin in Waterford. And in sport, Waterford footballers bow out of Championship following yesterday's qualifier defeat to Westmeath. Gardaí in Waterford are appealing for information on a man who's been missing for more than 3 months. 51-year-old Paul Walsh hasn't been seen since leaving his home in Waterford City on March the 1st. He's described as 6 foot 2 inches in height, with brown and grey hair and blue eyes. Anyone with information on his whereabouts is asked to contact Waterford Garda Station on 051 305 300. The new ruling majority on Waterford City and County Council has been labelled as shambolic by one opponent. The so-called Progressive Alliance, made up of Sinn Féin, Labour, Greens and 5 independents, took control of the council last Friday. It means Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are not part of the ruling majority on the local authority for the first time in decades. WLRF's Owen Dalton reports.
The Progressive Alliance saw one of its members elected Mayor of Waterford at last Friday's meeting. Labour councillor John Pratt will wear the chain for the next 12 months, while his party colleague, City councillor Seamus Ryan, will be his deputy. Mayor Pratt will be succeeded by 2 Sinn Féin mayors as well as 2 independents. But Fine Gael's Damien Gagan says the alliance is already vulnerable, pointing to his party and Fianna Fáil's ability to win important positions within the council's policy committees.
What we've seen today from the new Sinn Féin, Labour, Green, Independent Pact was just purely shambolic, I have to say. They were unable to actually assert their control over the council. I mean, we were completely outnumbered. I also think it's fair to say that during the course of their 2-week talks that they had offered positions to one another and they had guaranteed positions to one another, which just haven't materialised this evening. So I think it's an inauspicious start for the new pact.
However, members of the alliance have said they weren't looking to dominate positions within the council's policy committees, and the Green Party's Mark O'Cahasig says the hope was that all parties would come to the table.
I would have liked for the voters in Waterford, for the people of Waterford, to have seen the mandate that they gave essentially 5 more or less equal groupings, to see that played out. I would have liked to investigate a new style of doing politics, something that's more collaborative and less adversarial. We will forge ahead and try and make the policy initiatives that we think are required. But yes, I think it's an opportunity lost.
One of the negotiators through last week's talks was Sinn Féin's Conor McGuinness. The newly elected Dungarvan councillor says there's a new dynamic at play in Waterford.
Much has been made about the Green Wave, but I suppose another story of the local elections has been the fact that the Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil joint vote has been corralled below the 50%, and we've seen that clearly here in Waterford. Now, I would have really liked as well to see Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael be responsible and, I suppose, take us up on our good faith offer. They could have benefited from that, I suppose, and use those positions to represent the people who voted for them.
Tramore independent Joe Conway is one of the 5 non-aligned members of the alliance. He says the new arrangement must not fail.
It shows an ability to share power, and it shows respect for parity of esteem. I think there's an awful lot of goodwill in there, and I think people will work tirelessly to make sure it succeeds, because if it were to fail, heaven forbid, it would be forever pointed at us that we got our chance and blew it. So I think that is a singular motivating factor in it to make it work.
Google, in partnership with Enterprise Ireland, have hosted the first Grow with Google event outside of Dublin and Waterford. 1-to-1 masterclass sessions with key Google executives were held so that business owners in Waterford could receive practical training in these vital skills and knowledge. Over 100 small and medium enterprises from the southeast attended. Minister of State for Training and Skills John Halligan said it was great to get Google to host this event in Waterford.
And one of the reasons why they've chosen Waterford is, if you look at the history of Waterford, or SMEs, or small to medium enterprises. They really do very well. And what we're trying to do is to drive technology and work and jobs together going forward, because innovation has taken a hold on society in a sense, in businesses and so on. And if you look at where innovation was 5, 10, 15 years ago, where it is there and where it will be in 10, 15 years time, it will require businesses to have all the digital skills necessary to be competitors with our friends in Europe, but also to compete with industries right across the world.
He says Waterford has trailed behind other counties when it comes to employment, but he's confident that that's changing.
And I will accept that during the recession, Waterford was it was affected a lot more than many other cities in Ireland. But we have come forward, we are creating jobs. The unemployment rate still a little higher than it is in many other cities, but dropping down substantially. And I think that as the economy grows, you'll see that Waterford will grow as well.
The Irish Cancer Society hopes the HSE's new deal with Quest Diagnostics will allow it to move forward and clear the backlog of women waiting for test results. The HSE believes the arrangement will allow it to bring balance back to the cervical check screening programme. It will see Quest Diagnostics examine new slides, while Medilab Pathologies will continue to concentrate on clearing its backlog. Donal Buggy, Head of Services with the Irish Cancer Society, feels that will help reduce the number of women waiting for results.
It's definitely a good thing because it secures the future of the cervical check programme, which was in doubt for some weeks, given that in May Medlab started to or didn't take any new cases from May in order to deal with the backlog which has been created over the last year. This will now help to deal with that backlog and to secure the programme in order that we can move forward.
The defence teams in the Anna Kriegel trial have now finished delivering their closing speeches to the jurors. The two boys they represent deny murdering the Kildare schoolgirl in a derelict farmhouse in Dublin, while one of them is further charged with aggravated sexual assault. Our courts correspondent Frank Graney has this report, which some listeners may find distressing.
In his closing speech on Friday, prosecuting barrister Brendan Grant said the case against boy A is that he's guilty of murder and aggravated sexual assault due to what he described as an overwhelming forensic case against him. He said the case against boy B is somewhat different in that it relies on what came out of his own mouth. Boy A's barrister Patrick Gageby today told the jurors it's easy to forget the world of a 13-year-old and urged them to be careful of drawing unfair inferences in relation to his appearance or what was described as unusual interests. He also reminded them to treat his client separately to his co-accused. Boy B's barrister Damien Colgan began his final address to the jury by saying the prosecution's case just doesn't add up. He said there was no forensic evidence attached to the case against his client and claimed they couldn't prove the boys conspired together. He also said mere presence is not guilt. Frank Graney at the Central Criminal Court.
Waterford and Ballybeck have slipped in the latest survey by the Irish Business Against Litter group. Waterford City, while still clean, lost its top 10 spot, slipping to 16th. Ballybeck failed to retain its clean status and is now moderately littered in 34th. Kilkenny topped the rankings. Ballymun in Dublin City, a litter black spot, is at the foot of the table. The An Taisce report said Waterford deserves much praise. Plunkett train station got a special mention for the overall presentation, as did the cultural quarter. New Street Community Gardens, subjected to dumping, was by far the most heavily littered site, and the Bus Éireann bus depot and the bottle bank were both very poor. Ballybegg's results suffered due to 2 litter black spots, the Horticultural Project Initiative due to long-term dumping, and an area beside the GA Club. Top ranking sites included Ballybeg Community Project, St Saviour's GA Club and the residential areas of Glencarra and Priory Lawn. IBEL spokesman Conor Horgan says community participation seems to be forward.
We have asked Kilkenny specifically, is there a blueprint for success? And, there is no technical blueprint, but it's clear that to finish at the top of the rankings, the community has to be doing a lot of the work. Unfortunately, bottom of the charts is Ballymun. It's a litter black spot, and we haven't had an area designated a litter black spot in the last 3 years. So it is disappointing that we haven't quite left this moniker behind.
WLR Sport.
Thanks to Boland's Hyundai Waterford. Preview the award-winning 192 Hyundai range. See Bolands.com.
Very good afternoon, I'm Gavin Whelan. First to Gaelic games, and Waterford bowed out of the All-Ireland Football Championship following yesterday's defeat to Westmeath in Mullingar. Ger Egan got 8 points for the hosts, with Ronan O'Toole firing home a goal in 55 minutes as they prevailed to 122 to 7 points. Wind assisted Westmeath did lead 9 points to 1 at half time. Tommy Prendergast kicking Waterford's lone score there on 24 minutes. The away side closed the gap to 5 in the third quarter with points by Conor Murray, Desi Hutchinson and Prendergast, but that was as good as it got. Westmeath advancing to round 2 where they've been drawn against Limerick following this morning's draw. Waterford lost goalkeeper Darren Mulhern to an ankle injury in the pre-match warm-up as Paddy Hunt from Rathgormack made his championship debut. Benji Whelan says it was unfortunate for the Kilrossany clubman.
We think he's cracked his ankle, yeah. Very unfortunate. We're over Mullingar Shamrocks just warming up there, and just an innocuous incident. Ground is absolutely perfect, just whatever way he came down. We think it's broken, so we had to make the change on the foot, as it were. So Paddy did really well when he came in. Could have no complaints with the way he performed. Really well. Only been in with us there 2 or 3 weeks. It seems like it's the death knell for anyone to come in and be a keeper for us.
There's 5 keepers now.
Well, actually, that's the 9th keeper now that we've had in from start to finish.
Wow.
Yeah, speedy recovery there to Darren Mulhern, picking up that knock yesterday. JJ Hutchinson announced his retirement from intercounty football following yesterday's qualifier loss to Westmeath. The goal-tier score-getter has given a decade of service and played under 4 different managers for Waterford: John Owens, Niall Carew, Tom Glinchey and Benji Whelan. He struck that wonder goal, of course, against Wexford in the All-Ireland qualifiers last year. So we wish JJ the very best of luck. In soccer next, the Republic of Ireland can make it 10 points from possible 12 tonight in their Euro 2020 qualification campaign. Mick McCarthy's side welcomed Gibraltar to the Aviva Stadium at 7:45, just under 3 months after their 1-0 win against the same opposition in the opening game of the process. McCarthy could choose to rotate his squad after the energy-sapping draw awaited Denmark on Friday night. Ireland's Group D rivals Denmark and Georgia also meet tonight. The Danes desperate for a win there, having drawn their opening 2 games. In news of golf, Rory McIlroy, Shane Lowry and Graeme McDowell have all had a boost in the world golf rankings after their brilliant weekend in Canada. McIlroy, who was an emphatic 7-shot winner of the Canadian Open, has climbed from 4th to 3rd in the world. Shane Lowry's 2nd place finish has seen him move up 10 places to 32nd in the rankings. And after sealing his Open Championship qualification yesterday, Graeme McDowell is now 101st in the world, a climb of over 20 places. And finally, to news of racing, where today's action comes from Roscommon later on this evening. The action there underway at 5:25. Sports news on WLR, brought to you by Boland's Waterford.